This is part 2 of 15, games that I was talking about last time. This will be just 5 through 1. And, with this list, probably the meaning of this is to say the games that impacted me the most. Games that I don't really see changing. But who knows? When I was talking about part 1, my list has changed so much. Before I was talking to my brother and had Fable on there and Arkham Asylum. Definitely my top 5. And then games from the top 10, were filtered through the top 5 and lost ranks. And the ranking system's just kind of funky because, again, I'll be listening to YouTubers and I'll be looking at different, lists of the greatest games of all time or the greatest games of the decade. And these games, they just change so much year to year. I mean, who would have thought that Silksong was going to come out this year? And who knows where that's going to rank? Who knows where Hollow Knight ranks amongst even the best Metroidvanias? And who knows if people are going to like Hollow Knight more than Silksong or Silksong more than Hollow Knight? Who knows? So, games are kind of fickle, even the top movies. How are you going to have the top movies and then gauge, is an old movie better than a new movie? Is there a certain decade that really released a lot of amazing movies? What is an amazing movie to one person and then to another person? Man, the list just keeps on going. Some of my favorite movies, I really like Charlton Heston. Some of his movies, Soylent Green, I like Planet of the Apes. Obviously he was in Ben-Hur and, a few others. I like Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford. I like Jacob's Ladder. Again, even a recent movie that was really good was Mad God. Just full claymation. That's an enjoyable type of movie, just having pure claymation. Even Dark Souls 2, when the frame rates start going low and it looks like claymation, I like that a lot. And again, this is just supposed to be me talking. It's not supposed to get right to the point. So, but my top 5. Let's start this off. I'm listening to the soundtrack right now. And I played this maybe about 5 years ago. I believe it came out in 2016 or 2017. And that's Hyper Light Drifter. I had it in my own games for quite a long time. When I was on deployment, I had a buddy, maybe not a buddy, but one of my peers. He had Hyper Light Drifter as well, and I remember talking to him, and we were both saying that we needed to play it. So it took me a few years to actually get to playing it, and I always knew that I wanted to play it, just from the art direction, mostly. And then I saw the opening cinematic, and just quite amazing what they could do with the pixel graphics. But when you merge all of the factors, the soundtrack, with the fast-paced combat, with that stupid game where you just dash a lot, honestly, one of the most brain-dead activities you could do, but it's so much fun. But really the storyline and the minimalism of it, you don't have to go through this giant Zelda-like adventure. There's, I believe, 4 or 5 areas. I guess if you count like the beginning and end as like an area, I kind of in my own thought process. So 5 areas, 5 bosses, mini bosses. But it's like Death's Door, where it's like this quick game, and I really like Death's Door. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. That and Tunic, all these kind of top-down looking games. You could, if you had any one of the three, in your rankings, I totally understand replacing one with another. All minimalist and really good games. Quick too, I love that. Especially, as a 32-year-old. But Hyper Light Drifter is a game that seems like it was tailor-made for someone like me. So other people who have it on their list as well. Again, it tells you a lot about a person. I could have a long conversation about Hyper Light Drifter, and then someone could be like, that game sucks, and another person could be like, man, I find so much from that game. So yeah, Hyper Light Drifter, number 5. Number 4 is Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I could have had Baldur's Gate here, but I played Heroes of Might and Magic 3 way more than Baldur's Gate 3, but it goes with that and Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Myth: The Fallen Lords. All these games are games that I played a lot as a kid. The same with Roller Coaster Tycoon. They were always filtering in and out of my computer, the family computer. They were always filtering out. But Heroes of Might and Magic 3 was the game that everyone in my family played. Sometimes we would all play on the same computer and just like switch who was controlling the computer when it was their turn. But mostly we would play single player campaigns or the scenarios, and just played so much. My favorite castle was definitely the Necropolis. You can't go wrong with vampires that just regenerate, and skeletons that you could end up getting sounds of and having the necromancy skill. And the more you play, the more you find out. You find out sorcery is so pivotal, and having an attack and going through and finding what's on the map and quickly getting to it, to raise your hero skills, to raise your unit skills. It's so, even to this day, I have it on the iPad. I will still play that game. I can't count how many hours I've lost to it. Just that I've played it since it was released. Watching my dad play it when I was 5 or 6 years old, and then playing it soon after that. The game is just incredible. And if you haven't played it and you want to give it a go, then it is definitely a time consumer. And if it clicks with you, and if you haven't played it and it clicks with you, man, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, number 4. The only reason it doesn't rank higher is because the story is so-so. Sorry if you love Heroes of Might and Magic 3 storyline. I just didn't really give it a full chance either, so it might have something to do with that. And I think that's the only reason it doesn't rank higher, just because these other games, the stories, they have something. I won't say, in my top 3, there's a game that the story isn't a peak story, but it does everything else perfectly. That I just like it is slightly better than Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Just slightly better. But Heroes of Might and Magic 3, stuck on a desert island, or just an island, all by yourself, this game would be a perfect game to always have. So number 3 is Xenoblade Chronicles. As one that just sticks up for the whole franchise, I really like 3. It always fluctuates between 1 and 3. 2 is really good. X is really good. But 1 and 3 fluctuates between. So it's really hard to determine which one's better. I mean, my favorite character in all of them is probably Alvis. Happy that he had a return in 3. Elvis is just a captivating character. But I think when all the elements are merged together to make the best Xenoblade, I would say 3. It really clicked with me. That's a big thing. If it clicks with you, I'm always ready to hear someone's opinion. I don't really believe that games suck in any way. You could have even the worst game. Someone might like that game. So my opinions on that have changed drastically. So I don't really like when people criticize a game because it just might not be made for you. I mean, you can criticize every single element of the game. Someone out there is going to love it. And that might be just crazy to you that someone might like a game that you just find horrendous. But someone will like that game. And they will be a staunch defender of that game. And Xenoblade, all the games are good. So pick your lot of the litter. They are all incredible games. So 3 is there just because it reminds me a lot of Xenogears as well. The problem with Xenogears is just the combat. I believe Xenogears has the best story, arguably the best characters, arguably the best soundtrack. But the combat nowadays is, for me, just hard to get through. It sucks to say because I believe Xenogears is the pinnacle, but it's just you're playing a more modernized version with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Again, with an inferior, pretty much every category, but you're playing modernized version, which is what I need now to complete and to, sit down and just be able to play without feeling like I'm tasked to play it. So Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is there. My number 2 is a game that kind of correlates with Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I didn't play it. Yeah, I got it a long time ago, probably when I first had my first job when I was 15 or 16, working at a grocery store, and I got this game, and then I kept on trying to play it, and it just did not click with me. I played Baldur's Gate 1 a lot as a kid. I never beat it, but would always make new characters and new party members and get pretty far, and then, be a kid without a strategy guide with Baldur's Gate just did not bode well. But Baldur's Gate was so good, and I never played any of the Fallouts, which I've been meaning to play Fallout 2, because it does look really good, and I believe that right next to this game, besides Baldur's Gate 2, so this game is Planescape Torment. I'm very fortunate that I have a Switch, and I have an ability to play this game while being able to take it in, being able to pause it, being able to turn it off, being able to say, hey, today I'm only going to play an hour. That was enough reading for today after school and whatnot. But Planescape is obviously a very narrative-driven game, and I believe that the only way that I would be able to enjoy it is to play when I did, which is more recently. I think if I played it as a kid and I kept on playing it and forced myself to play it, I just don't think that it would rank that high. But playing it recently, with always having this, like, I want to play this game. This is a game that I've always wanted to play, and just kept on seeing it on these these lists where it's the best story ever written on, by games. And finding Nordrum captivating. Again, I like claymation, and he just looked so intriguing as this little cube, and I just needed to unlock it. There was something that's driving me to unlock this one secret character. But then playing it and finding out the companions, I've never played a game where I've liked the companions as much as that game. Xenoblade is very close, but Planescape Torment has the best party in any game. I would say hands down. I don't think you'll have a more diverse, different. The party is so good. It's so good. Just having Mort alone and finding out his story, and he's just the perfect companion. Dakon, perfect. Mordrum, already talked about him. I can keep on going with the characters, but again, if it I could imagine. I hear a common complaint is the combat. I don't really. I mean, they say it's like a point and click adventure. I don't really understand that. You could probably get lost in the combat if you really gave yourself up to it. But that game is incredible. I'm so happy that I played it. I think the game came out in 99, 26 years later, and it's as captivating as ever. And it really, as you get older, it sticks with you even more, because in this life we only have one. In that life, in that game you have multiple, and it makes you think about mortality, and that gets more prevalent the older that you get. So I imagine that this game will always stand the test of time, and I think once someone plays it, they'll understand why. So that's number 2. And again, I think 1, 2, and 3 are pretty interchangeable. So that will give that a leeway into number 1. And number 1 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I just equate to, this game as the perfect game. Again, the story is, not the best, but I think it works in its favor. I don't think that a heavy storyline with a Metroidvania works as well as you would hope. And I think Castlevania has the perfect molding of giving you a guide with the story and letting you reach into it and finding different outcomes, like the inverted castle, and different abilities that kind of allow you to break the game. And if you don't break the game is still accessible enough to allow you to do everything without a guide. It's incredible game. It's funny, I went to a game store, and it was back when I would be more social and talk to the game, the guy who owns the game store, or I think he's one of the workers, but he ended up owning his own game store down the street from there. He bought it out and then made it his own. And I asked him, because I was picking up Legacy of Darkness at the time, and I was like, what is your favorite game? And Castlevania was not my favorite game at the time. It was definitely top 10. And it took time to kind of sink in to really how good it is over the years. I played it on the 360 when it first came out there, as a re-release, maybe back in 2007 or 8. And I was like, this game seemed like it came out just the other day. I think it came out in 97, if I'm not mistaken. And I asked this game owner what his favorite game was, and he said Castlevania. He didn't even blink an eye. He'd probably been asked that game or that question plenty of times, but without a thought, he was like, Symphony of the Night. It's the best game of all time. And it's a frequent game that comes up when you ask people what their favorite games are, especially if they're older. Because I think it's just so... it made the Metroidvania, that is Super Metroid. And I think that if I played Super Metroid when I was younger, or if I replaced Super Metroid with Symphony of the Night, then I would think that Super Metroid's probably my number 1. But the time that I played Symphony of the Night, the staying power that it has, the replayability that it has, even to this day, I don't think there's a game that is like that. That 8 to, let's say, 15 hours, depending on, your playstyle, maybe even longer. In that playstyle of game, I don't think there's a game more replayable for me than that to this day. You know, I grew old of Arkham Asylum after I beat it, you know, like 12 or 13 times. It's kind of hard to go back to now just because, you know, maybe in 10 years if I go back to it, I'll remember how good it is, but I kind of killed it. But Symphony of the Night, I never felt like I killed. I could probably still play to this day. And that's why it's probably my number one. So yeah, Xenoblade, Planescape, and Castlevania, interchangeable. I don't think there's games that are going to impact me more, but that's what this purpose of the video is. I'm 32. I'll probably make this video in a few years' time and then see how much I've changed and how much this video has changed. But I'm really happy that you guys joined me for this, even if I just look back at this years from now. It'll be weird listening to my voice, but I appreciate it, and I would love to hear any games that were very impactful for you, because I find it intriguing, and I would love talking back and forth.